Welcome to a new episode of Outside the Panels with your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Outside the Panels. I am your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes, and in celebratory fashion of the Dolphins winning three in a row, the Dolphins jersey is out. So let's hope this isn't bad luck for this coming weekend. Sports aside, I'm here with not just one, but another two duo writing artist partnership of a new book that's coming out in the new year. I'm talking to friend of Comic Crusaders, Rich Douek, and of course, Joe Mulvey. Guys, how's it going?
Doing good.
No one told me that you were a Dolphins fan. I'm not gonna lie.
Whoa. Is this a deal breaker? Or something?
I am here. We're in my office right now. Let me see right there. You can see my Brandon Marshall signed football. I am a Jets fan. So this is going to start off extremely contentious. However, congratulations on your win this weekend. It was
I won't rub in this last weekend, but to put context to this, a couple of years ago I was in Mexico and we're in this hotel. We've got a great big sports bar. I'm there wearing my OJ McDuffie top, the greatest receiver, never get any respect in the NFL. And as I'm walking past this crowd of guys, excuse me, one of them looks at me, waits until I get 5 paces back, and then goes, Jets, Jets. I was like, you're killing me, man. Like, come on, how well.
Yeah, it's funny how because I live in Queens, New York, and you have this group of people that for some reason as Jets fans, we still have to hate generations of don't get me wrong, Patriots are number one. If you're going they're the big Thanos of the world. And now watching Brady on Tampa Bay and Belichick, now the only thing you want is you want to come down to Belichick versus Brady in a Super Bowl. That's what you're.
Yeah, that's what you're hoping for.
Yeah,
could happen. The AFC East is particularly weak this year, I think. But
I would say the AFC and NFC East. The East overall is not
the AFC NFC least.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, we're recording this the day that the Giants fired their offensive coordinator, Jason Garrett.
See, I didn't want to get into this, but because I'm a huge football fan, of course. But for me, it's hold on a second, you've hired the guy that helped destroy the Cowboys as your offensive coordinator. What do you think was going to happen? If you can't win with the Cowboys talent, what think you're going to do with the Giants? But hey,
however, I will give this credit. The credit is at least it wasn't Adam Gase. Because when you sign a guy who literally looks like he would be the villain in any Law and Order episode, you then run the risk of being just completely embarrassed for 2 seasons. So whatever.
So he's a villain in Law and Order. Can you just imagine when he calls a third down play? Dum dum. Right, enough football. Yeah, we're here to talk about a comic book. Rich, it's been ages since I saw you last on one of our virtual cons a few years back. You're here with Joe, co-creators, writer and artist of a book called Happy Hill. Is that right? Excellent. So, Joe, quick question for you. Co-creator and artist, does that mean you get double pay?
It should. It means I get a double pat on the back.
All right, okay,
that's cool.
Cool. All right. So, Rich, tell us a little bit about this book then. So, what's the story that you're going for? What's going down in Happy Hill? Can you hear me all right?
Did he freeze?
Wait, I think it cut out for a second.
There you go. Cool, excellent. So Rich, tell us what's going down on Happy Hill then.
Well, it's Happy Hill is kind of like this dream resort where you go and the promise is that you are going to leave with the secret of true happiness. Like you're going to go sort of leave all your troubles there and come out of it a much happier person. Now, as with all things that seem too good to be true, there's a lot more going on in Happy Hill that first meets the eye. So, you know, what you're looking at right now is the cover where you're seeing Joe's wonderful creation, the Woodsman, who is sort of this urban legend that lives around where Happy Hill is. And Joe, you want to maybe talk a little bit about the Woodsman, your boy there?
Yeah, so the Woodsman's pretty much a fictitious character that's made up by local legend and lore in upstate New York. Depending on who you hear the story from, he's either a savior or a persecutor or a crazy person. And the legend goes that the Woodsman is always willing to listen to people if he finds them in the woods, and he'll offer you happiness, but it's what you offer him that allows you to keep it. And that's kind of the same thing that the resort has carried on through. But really intertwined in this whole story is the lifelong friendship of our two main characters, Thea Ridley and Wyatt Willows, who are two lifelong friends who grew up after going through a really auspicious, scary event in their life known as the Roanoke Orphanage, where one night the entire orphanage disappeared. All the kids were missing except for two. Two children were left behind. That was Thea and Wyatt. Even though they kind of grew up separate ways, they always stuck together. They came back together, and Wyatt is obsessed with the idea of finding the Woodsman and making him the pretty much domineering reason for what happened in that orphanage.
All right, okay.
Just so happens that there's a lot of rumors going around. Wyatt finds out as a tabloid reporter, similar to like the Inquirer or you know, the supermarket rag magazine, that supposedly he is in and around the woods of Happy Hill. So they go there to spend copious amounts of money, have a great time, but also if this thing is real in the meantime.
So, looking at the book, to me, it seems there's a couple of influences coming into play. You know, you've kind of got a bit of a Mulder Scully thing going on. It's kind of nodded to in the dialogue. You know, you've got like the true believer and the one who's like just kind of along for the ride. What other influences do you think have kind of shown on this? This goes to both of you because I think there's some very literary influences. I think there's some artistic influences in play. Maybe it's just me being a super nerd and I just see influences on everything. You know, like in Sixth Sense, I see dead people and I see influences.
Yeah. I think that's good because it kind of helps people know where the creators are coming from. When you see that little tinge of like, I hear people describe my style in a bunch of different ways, and like I can only tell you, like, I'm a huge, massive fan of Todd McFarlane, of Humberto Ramos, of C. McNiven, you know, Olivia Cortell, Nelson Blake. Like, there's so many artists that I'm a fan of. And then I think your style just becomes an amalgam of it. But for the sake of the story, it's very much like a love letter to like you said, like X-Files. I think it's more along the lines of almost like I originally was coming up with the idea of like if Mel Brooks and Quentin Tarantino did something together where it would be kind of violent, but also kind of really stupid and silly at certain points.
Yeah, I think when Joe kind of like was first explaining it to me, the kind of classic like X meets X kind of thing he told me, he was like it's like if Willy Wonka meets The Shining, like so it's like you know, the Willy Wonka part is the fact that like Happy Hill is just this kind of like over the top resort where it seems like, you know, it almost seems like magical things could happen, you know, like it's like a like we go into this a little bit more in the later issues, but it's like it's got like its own private amusement park and the way that you get around the you know, from place to place, there are these like big you know, like slides and tubes and things like that. So it's kind of got that thing for it. But then the Shining part of it is just that there's this crazy monster stalking people and people disappearing and nobody really knows what's going on. But there's also definitely like an X-Files thing going on, both in like Wyatt and Thea's relationship, but also in like kind of uncovering secrets. Like there's like a lot more.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to what's going on at Happy Hill than what's on the surface. Yeah,
definitely. There's a cigarette smoking man, kinda, who's not smoking cigarettes, but there is a guy who knows, or a person who knows way too much. It's interesting how you said The Shining, because there's a scene in the book where the duo are coming to the hotel for the first time, and I expected when they opened up to the big page, I was like, this is going to be like a Shining type thing, and that first panel, it's like, whoa, look at how big the hall is and everything. And then I was like, it looks a bit, is it? And then, of course, you see the scape of the garden and everything. I'm like, yeah, that ain't The Shining. There's no snow on that hill. Not at all.
But that's the fun part of it is like, I wanted people who've never even picked up a comic to be like, you know what? I don't want to get murdered, but at the same time, I really would want to stay there. Like, there's a saying in the book that's like, it's always happy hour at Happy Hill. So, yeah, that's like, I know I would go there. I literally built it with the intention of being like, this is a place I would like to go to, minus the murder, mayhem, and, absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool.
So what was the catalyst for taking these three kind of separate genres? Because you've got the family drama, then you've got the vacation element, and then you've got the horror element, and then you've kind of mushed them together. So what kind of glue did you think was going to hold all that together? Which it does. I'll say that right now.
Yeah. So I think like what holds it together is a lot of the things that Joe and I were kind of drawing on from real life. That is sort of an experience everybody's had, where it's like, you're really stressed, like at your job, let's say, or whatever it is, but you go on vacation, and the whole idea is that you can kind of leave all that stress behind, and at least for that like week or two or however long you're there, you're just sort of like, you're not going to have any problems, you're just going to be happy. And
I got heckled by Jets fans. That's how happy I was.
Yeah. So I think like and then the interesting stuff comes when you sort of think about like, well, what if that could last? Like, what if it wasn't just leaving your problems behind for 2 weeks? What if it was leaving your problems behind forever? Like, how would that work? And then I think that's kind of like where like the horror element comes into it, and because it didn't necessarily have to be horror. I mean, like there's kind of like other ways you can tell that story, but Joe and I both have like kind of sick imaginations, so I think horror was kind of like a natural fit for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good shout. And Joe, so because I mean, you mentioned Todd McFarlane as one of your influences, and you can see on this panel here that looks very, the elongated face is very kind of McFarlane early doors, definitely. How is it then when you've got such a I'm going to be, and I mean this as a compliment, a playful style? All right, it's very expressive. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you've got this really playful, expressive art style going on, but then you've still got to get across the emotions of the mum and the daughter and the dad. You've still got to get the horror element. You can see here that the Woodsman's just about to chop down a tree of sorts, and then you've got the kind of the setup of the place as well. They're like, as much as the genres are different, the style's got to be different. How do you manage to merge those three together?
I think it's just being clear. So like even though yes, I have like a cartoonier style, I think you're not going to compare me and Alex Ross in the same breath, but at the same time, the story has to be served by the art. So if the art doesn't tell the story, so when someone's scared, they don't look scared. When someone's sad, they don't look sad. Like there's no time for me. There's no nuance. I want like anger is like level 10 anger. It's not like no shucks. I want like spit curling from your lips and your tongue snapping, and like that's the style of art I always loved and responded to in comics, because you only have 22, 24, 26, 28 in this case, the number one pages to make an impact on the reader. And if the reader feels, I think, bland or not really connected to the story, they don't connect. And like there's an artistic not trick, but an artistic approach of like when you make characters, your characters should be noticed in their silhouettes. So just in the silhouette, I think by reading all of Happy Hill #1, I could draw the silhouettes and you could name every single character from it. So yes, it's exaggerated, it's expressive, but I think that's just the way I want to tell the story. And like I wouldn't be happy underselling something. Like someone's face is getting ripped apart by vines and sticks. I'm gonna make it look like, you know, it hurts, but at the same time, hopefully in a palette that's not like, you know, making you cringe too.
It's interesting because when I first flicked through the book, I spotted the art straight away, you know, and I was like, you know, it's very expressive, as you said, cartoony, kind of that McFarlane-y sort of odd body perspectives at times. And I thought to myself, this doesn't feel like a horror. And then, boom, I get to this page. I'm like, all right, who let Mike Mignola in the house? What's going on here? Yeah. So, you know, and then it was interesting to see how quickly that those snaps really happened, because you go from here to the sunshine, from the sunshine to the forest, and it's just kind of continuous. You're kind of resetting the table every time for the reader. So
well, I hope to. I don't want you to know what's coming from page to page. I want you to feel lulled in by this great place that we're taking you. Yeah. And that's why I like the whole mashup of the genres. Like I would almost call it like vacation horror comedy type thing, where it's like my favorite horror stuff has comedy to it. And you know, the Edgar Wright movies and even like in some of the slasher films, like a Scream, it did such a good job of like, you know, racking up tension, leaving you a little bit with a laugh, taking the tension even higher, and then like pouring action on top of it. And like that's what Rich brings to the story, because we call Rich in my house the Mulvey Whisperer, where he comes in and I have like, oh, we should do like these 70 things, and Rich is like, okay, calm down. Like, you know, and he moves all pieces together so that it's a much more coherent story. And even today we were sharing messages back and forth about like a cool scene and a setting for issue 4, and I'm like, oh, that's so cool, and I can have like vines growing out of this and blood and guts, you know, like, and all that stuff. And I think that's the fun of Happy Hill, that you have this backdrop of this picturesque, unbelievable, gorgeous, you know, extremely expensive resort setting, and then the underbelly of it is, you know, quite the opposite.
Cool.
Yeah, like a lot of it. Oh, sorry. No, I was just gonna say, like contrast, you know, like really helps. You know, it's like you're sort of like you're seeing like both sides of it. So I think that's something that really helps the story work a lot too.
I think I totally agree with you. Absolutely agree with you. Some of the contrast comes across a little bit saccharine, like over the top, but that's because it's meant to be, right? Because the Happy Hill mansion is supposed to be, as you said, the Willy Wonka type effect. So I've got to ask, working with Chris Sotomayor, what was that like? Because I mean, I've been a big fan of Chris's since his work on Batgirl, so that goes back a while. So how's that work then? Because I mean, Joe, you kind of know what you want to see on the page. Rich, you kind of know where the plot points are and what things you want to see as the drive towards the reader's eye and all that sort of stuff. How do you then get a third person in on the same page, so to speak, no pun intended, to get the tone of the pages and the writing down?
The easiest answer is blackmail, obviously. Like you take very uncomfortable, unflattering photos of him, and you just send them to 3 a.m. and just a ... or else.
There's a website for that sort of stuff now, you know that, right?
There are, and I'm going to be running that too soon. JoeMulvey'sGotcha.com. But I really just like, sort of like invaluable to everything I've ever done as a colorist. He gets where I fall, and he could pick me up with the colors and make stuff look better. And then if I do something kind of cool, he makes it 1,000,000 times cooler. And he's also a personal friend, so like that's another thing. But like, he's sincerely, I think, one of the best colorists in the industry, and he has been for decades.
I think he's much underappreciated.
I agree 100%.
I think there's go Rich.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, I agree. I think he's like one of the most talented, and also like, but I think like he deserves like way more credit than he gets sometimes. Like I think he really is one of the best guys out there. And he's like, also, it's not even just.
This is not a joke. He's just texting me more
Right.
pages as we do. Like, so I'll give you a little peek here at like more pages from.
Whoa.
Yeah, he's just sending me pages.
So like,
I want to watch him. Okay.
The funny thing is what I was going to say was like, it's not just like talent, it's also like his kind of like work ethic and reliability and stuff like that. Like, it's the sort of thing where like, you just know that when you're working with him, he's not going to let you down. So he's great.
I think
the opposite. He actually is like, you're like, oh my God. Cause he also worked with us on Wailing Blade, which was a series Rich and I did before this.
Yeah.
And like, I can't tell you how many people, when we go to conventions or even like people that just reach out online about the book and they're just like, oh my God, those colors. And I'm like, do you even just take your time and look, especially on the printed page, like he, just the blood in Wailing Blade, he made look like so intricate and different. And like, he's doing that and above with Happy Hill. So he's the best.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit of a rich vein of talent we have colorists wise at the minute. There's a whole heap of colorists who, when you see the name on the book, you're like, yep, I know I'm getting quality. I don't know what, let's see how it gets there. Georgie Belair springs to mind. I absolutely.
Oh yeah, Georgie's amazing.
Yeah,
Tamara Bonvillian is
brilliant.
Unbelievable.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Really,
Tamara's really, really good. And also has the coolest surname in the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tamara like... Bond villain. And I say
that. Yeah.
Tamara, I say it every time. I'm really sorry, but it's a really cool surname. Sorry.
It is.
Sorry, yeah. I can just sort of like see there, sort of like, with the big white pussycat doing the whole thing. Yes, Mr. Bond.
You gotta let her. If you're on a panel, say that name last, because you don't want to follow that name.
Like
Tamara Bonvillian and Joe Mulvey. Like it's like a game show, a letdown sound in the back.
Yeah, I don't know. But don't put yourself down. So did you guys Wailing Blade? You mentioned Wailing Blade. Is that the first book you two worked on? Because I remember looking at Wailing Blade #1. I thought
together,
it was great.
Creatively, yes.
Cool.
I had Rich do. He wrote a short story that he drew with Joe Eisma, that also Soto colored for
Joe Eisma.
Yes, he did Morning Glories. He just did, I think, Ending Word with Paul. He did a little Archie.
Yeah,
I recognize the name. I see so many books. I'm
sure.
What was I going to say? So then, what was it about working on Wailing Blade that made you think, you know what, let's do another book?
Again, it's blackmail. Joe has like photos of me there. No.
Wait, let me just check my camera settings.
So many. So many.
Yeah, you'll never find a photo of me in a Patriots shirt or a Jet shirt. Just saying.
Oh no, I'd rather die.
Steelers cap. No, I've got Steelers cap.
I think like Joe was saying, like we just we found we really work well together. There's people that you just sort of like vibe with, for lack of a better term. It's like Joe and I, like, we both live in the like New York, New Jersey area. Like I grew up in Queens. He lives there. I live in Jersey now, but like we get together all the time, and like we we'll talk, we'll drink, like stuff like that. I think we just kind of like each other's company. We like working with each other. So I think Joe's like somebody I want to be working with like for a long time, even after we finish Happy Hill. Like,
Excellent. Oh, bless. Oh,
it's true. It's the hope. It's the hope.
Right. With all this brotherly love, it seems like the right time to take a quick break. As we're talking about Happy Hill, and it's from Comics Tribe. It's an indie book, so makes sense then for you to have. Let me see if I can find it. I'm just going to say that I've got it and I haven't. Have I? I don't have it. Oh no, that's terrible. I was going to give you the flip side focus, but never mind. Instead of flip side, How about a quick word from these guys?
Do you want to find out what makes the professor do his happy dance? Check out the Old Timers Comic Book Show, only on the UCPN.
There you go. That's the Old Timers Comic Book Show coming to you on the UCPN. Yeah, man, he loves that. He loves that thing too. So the Old Timers Show, where the hosts aren't old, but the comics most certainly are. So if you're in some retro love and you're sick of the hardcore event-driven stuff from the big two, go and check out the Old Timers Comic Book Show so you can get some old school action. There you go. Cool. All books on there are at least 25 years old.
So, oh my God, they were made before I was born.
So in 25 years, in 25 years, they'll be talking about Happy Hill #1.
Well, actually, you know what I'm thinking? We'll probably do a flip side on Happy Hill as well, because it's out in January, so we've got time to do further press on that, so that's totally fine. All right, back to the questions. Let's see. Right, you're both co-creators, yeah. How is it? How does that dynamic work? Because so many times I see when people create comic books, it's very designated: writer, artist, yeah, letterer. How does that kind of the co-creation element? How do you decide who gets the final say? It can't be blackmail again. Surely there's not that many photos, is there?
No, but blackmail helps. Blackmail does help. But at the same time, I think that's why Rich and I get along as creatives together, because I'll throw out an idea. He'll say, okay, that's great, but let's do this. And it's kind of like I throw him a ball, and then he cleans it up and then throws it back. Like, Rich just makes stories better because he's just a better, I think, just a better writer than I am. But I like to come up with ideas constantly, and I like to also come up with ideas that get me excited to sit down at the table and draw for 14 hours a day. So, like, I don't think we've had really any headbutting back and forth almost ever, I'm going to say, over how we approach it.
Not really.
Yeah. Like, oh, here's an idea. What do you think? What do you think? And we go back and forth, and like we mold shit into masterpieces.
I mean, I think like the big thing that Joe and I both do, and I think like, and it's not even like just him and me. I think it's also with like Soto and with Haas on the letters, and just what I think the key to like successful collaboration is if you can kind of take your own ego out of it and do what's best for the book. It's like if Joe throws an idea out, and I'm not going to be like, oh, I don't like that because it's Joe's idea. Like, and I want my ideas in there. Is this a great idea for the book? Like, I'll ask him questions. I throw an idea out, he'll ask me questions, and that's kind of how we figure out like what's going to be in there is what we both find like really exciting and really intriguing. And it's not about like, who came up with it or who, who gets to write this line of dialogue, who gets to write that line of dialogue. I mean, I can't draw, but I imagine, if I was writing, if I was drawing as well, like, I wouldn't be like, oh, Joe, you have to let me draw this hand because, I want to be in there. It's like, he draws better hands than me or whatever. You know what I mean? So I think it's just kind of like being able to like put your own like ego aside and just sort of decide that you want to make the book the best it can be. So
cool. Sounds like a plan. You mentioned where are my notes? The letterer. So you said Haas, but it's going to be Hassan Otsman Eluhal. Did I get anywhere close with that?
I think it was 70%. I think it was a good,
Yeah, good 7, was it? Yeah, cool, excellent. 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10 or 7 out of 100.
70%. It was good.
Yeah.
70%.
Yeah. So I've seen Hassan's. That's all I'm going with because I can't say the rest. I've seen his work on Dynamite Comics, and again, for me, probably one of the better letterers that isn't working for VC, because it seems every time I look up on a book, it's always VC's this person, VC's that person. I think there's a couple of letters out there that I think should get more credit. Hassan's one of them. Taylor Esposito's the other. I think Taylor does an absolute shed load of work, and he really helped me promote the idea of letters as a creative force. I've interviewed him before. What a good guy. So it's interesting how in the past when I've seen Hassan's work, it's kind of been more standard. This time around, it's a lot more scratchy in places. So again, helps set that different voice, that different tone of the book. Was that him suggesting that, or is that kind of direction from you guys?
No, Hassan's a powerhouse, man. He's like what he came with to this story is unbelievable. The way he I kind of given a little bit of direction. Like I just wanted a different font and a different approach to the Woodsman, and when the Woodsman speaks and all coloring, and then he came in with all these options, and the way he lays the captions in very different ways. Like you have to read the book, but like how he lays the settings straight across the road. Like I think he's an unbelievable letterer, like powerhouse letterer. And it's so funny because we worked with Taylor before. Taylor worked with us on Wailing Blade, and Taylor did an amazing job.
Yeah.
And it's funny because we just had New York Comic Con a little while ago, and as we were there and previewing the Happy Hill New York Comic Con edition, I had at least a handful of people walk up and be like, "Oh my God, is this the new book that Haas is doing? I've seen it online." And I'm like, "That's so cool that he's so unique and so individual, and I think puts out so much good vibes, good karma, good energy into the comic universe with his Panel X Panel book series and his YouTube channel." I couldn't be happier, and I think the guy, what he brings to the book is next level amazing.
Yeah.
No, cool. All right. So having a look through the press release, you have had some massive comments from a couple of people that I kind of know. So straight up, a story of shocking killer and the family torn apart that's ghastly and yet gorgeous, terrifying and yet terrific. That's from Ryan K. Lindsay, who I absolutely love his stuff. And then Happy Hill is the perfect destination spot for spine-chilling comic book horror, and that's from David Papose of the Oz fame, the OZ. Oh, OZ. God, see, this is what accents do to you, right? So what's it like? To me, those two are probably kind of, for me, they're next level indie creators. The amount of great work they're putting out there. Rich, you've done loads of good stuff with Wailing Blade, and so on from there. What's it like getting sort of like those comments from like your contemporaries and your peers? It's one thing me fanboying over it, but surely.
I mean, it's really good because it's like, it's just sort of like a validation that you're not like, you're not a hack or something like that. It's when you get good pull quotes from people you respect, then, I have to take Ryan and David at their word that they're not lying. But
I spoke to both of them. They're both genuine guys. So
no, they are. I know. I'm friendly with both of them, and
cool.
They're both really great guys. And so I'm just saying, like, when if you take people at their word, which obviously you should, it's sort of like just a validation that you're not, you've done it. You've done a good job, and other people that do great work believe that as well. So it's definitely a good feeling.
So you said hack, and a name popped into my head. I was like, well, I can't say that because I'll get sued, so I better not say that then.
You can't get sued anymore. People are very easygoing nowadays.
Really? All right. So can I? All right. So when you get good praise off comic, you made it. You're not a hack. You deliver on your product, not like Rob Liefeld, who's still waiting for Brigade. Never mind. I didn't say that. All right. Okay. Moving on swiftly.
He's got movie franchises. The he's a busy man. Who knows? I don't know. I didn't back it. I know, but I'm just saying. I have heard the critique. I will say this in response to your question. I don't believe either David Pepos nor Ryan. I've met both of them in person. I've shared a hotel room with Ryan K. Lindsay, and I will go on the record for the first time ever on your show and tell you I believe neither are real. I believe they are the same person.
You never see them in the same room together.
Nope. You never see them in the same room together.
I want to ask a quick question about the design of the Woodsman, if I may be so bold. Let me just... So we've had pictures of him already. What was the inspiration for his kind of like overall look? Because I mean, I looked at it off the cover, and he reminded me of the Bane character from Arkham Asylum, what with all the stuff coming out. And then when I got into the book, I was like, oh, it kind of reminds me like Hearn the Hunter, which is a fable. I've been a proper journalist on this time. I've actually done some research. Check it out.
That. It's very impressive.
Yeah. So that's Hearn the Hunter from English fables. Yeah. See where I'm getting at with the horns on there.
Yeah, very much so, yeah.
And of course, we all know what Bane looks like. Let me bring him up. Where's my Bane picture? There it is. That's the one I used. There you go. So you can kind of see where I get the sort of like the
tubes and everything.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see if I can bring it up on my iPad while I'm here. So I have this. Walked into an antique store years ago, and I saw this old photo of like a family, like I'd say like maybe in like the 30s or 40s or 20s, whatever it was, all black and white, and it was like mom, 2 kids. And the father was standing there like the patriarch in this gas mask and fur coat with a top hat. And I just remember thinking, what a creepy looking thing. And then I was coming up with this story. I'm like, you know what? I have this idea of something that's going to be like in my head, like a story of like Happy Hill. It didn't have the name. Here we go. I'm going to show you. I took a close crop of it when I was in the place. So I don't know if you could see that.
Whoa, that's scary.
Yeah.
My God.
And I was like, what a frightening thing. And then I'm like, how could it get worse? And I'm like, all right, so we got all tattered fur, and there's like flies just flying out of it and spider webs. And then I'm like, and there's a direct connection in the story to the Woodsman's horns and the horns that you see all over the Happy Hill resort. Like, yeah, there you go, a little Easter egg for your show. So, like, I was just like, oh, that would look really cool. And then, like, the more I drew it and drew his character, I drew this where the tattered bits of the jacket almost curl up and have their own, like, reaction, kind of like, again, to Todd McFarlane, like, kind of like Spawn's, like, cape. Like his tentacles, which give him, like, in silhouette, like, a little bit more like a monstrous octopus in the woods type look. And it just kind of like grew from there. So, but it was originally seeing that photo in the antique store that just gave the creeps.
How do you sleep at night with stuff like that in your head? I have no idea.
I drink right
now. Yeah. I thought you did that because you're a Jets fan. All right.
You know what? They did not have to be exclusive. They could all. I still wake up in the night with a cold sweat, screaming butt fumble. So I know I have. Oh yeah, I have issues.
My we're back. I can't believe we're back on football. My auntie Sheila married an American guy years ago, and she moved to America for a while, and she absolutely fell in love with Joe Namath. And she was like, she was telling me the story.
I could see it.
Yeah, she was like, oh, I used to like this guy. You won't know who I'm talking about. His name was Joe Namath. I was like, the guy who guaranteed the Jets winning the Super Bowl. Everyone knows Joe Namath. You know, I'm saying, come on. You go to football school, you hear names like Joe Namath, Y.A. Tittle, Jim Brown.
There's so many people. I won't get back into football, but yes, a lot of people know Joe Namath. And unfortunately, recently it was for worse things, but he still got us the Super Bowl.
Well, hey, he was in the A team, so it can't be all bad, right? Terrible link. Okay, so Joe's kind of explained what's great about working with Rich and the fact he manages to take all these kaleidoscopic ideas and bring them to focus. Rich, what's the best part about working with Joe?
He buys me a lot of drinks.
Buys the beer. Good answer.
No,
That's where the
what's your-
blackmail comes from. It's self-serving, mate. He buys you the drinks, then he takes the photos.
Yeah.
Come on, think.
I know.
The cycle, Jimmy.
What's
Johnny? Sorry.
the real answer? The real answer is just that Joe is like, he's just like a fountain of like great ideas. Like whether it's stuff that he's like, you know, I'm saying like whether it's like writing stuff that like, you know, we're working out together, or whether it's just the drawing something. It's like he's just like so full of like imagination and so full of a drive to make everything look unique and amazing. Like I think I just love like watching it happen and like and being a part of it. It's like even one great example I think from Wailing Blade is that, like, you know, Wailing Blade kind of takes place in this sort of like a post-apocalyptic world. And like, if I can tell you the amount of time like Joe spent designing like the trees and the grass and stuff like, and the insects, it was amazing, because I've said to him, I was like, you could just draw on regular trees and I wouldn't ever have even have been like, Joe, what's going on with the trees? Like, you know, come on, they look too normal. Like that, I never would have said that, but like he just makes everything kind of like better, in just in ways that I couldn't even like predict. You know what I mean? It's just so I think I just love watching that happen and being a part of that happening.
And then I buy the drinks. I mean, look, I don't want to do my own horn.
Yeah.
But two
Drinks,
yeah.
Hey, I'm not saying anything, you know, drinks, cameras, fishnets, whatever goes, mate. Whatever goes.
That's the Holy Trinity.
Yeah, woohoo! Yeah. That's my Saturday night. What are you talking about? Okay, so I used to end this type of show by asking questions like, hey, if you could work on a Big Two book, what would it be? But I've kind of revised my answer on this, and it kind of goes a little bit like this. Do you feel that the current comic book marketplace respects indie creators and indie books much more than the regular Big Two event-driven stuff?
Good question. I will just say this. I think to me, I've always gotten into characters. Like we're talking about Todd McFarlane at the beginning of the show. Todd McFarlane was who I grew up emulating with his be entrepreneurial, own your own stuff, do your own stuff. And I haven't done very much Big Two stuff that I'd be like, you know, more knowledgeable on that side of it. But all I can say is like, just making the comic is its own hurdle. Getting the right people to work on it with you, selling it through a Kickstarter, through the direct market, and then reaching out and making friends and making connections with retailers. I don't know if it's something that's character-based or creator-based, but all I know is my own interactions have only been great all the way through, and I've gotten respect and help from everybody. But I've never had people in my own LCS telling me doing a horror book is the worst thing I could do for my career. Like, you're an action artist. Don't do that crap. That's nonsense. And then I'm like, okay, you know, and like, I think no matter what, everyone's heart's in the right place. But I think when it comes to like quote unquote respect, I think just being in comics long enough, you see the cycle kind of keep going on and on. You do more Big Two work so you can do your creator owned, or at least get an audience for the creator owned. Because to me, comics is all just about getting more and more people to trust you with their story. Because when they put down $4 or $5 or whatever it is to buy a book with my name on it, I want you to feel at the end of that page you would pay twice as much for the next issue because you're so into it. And I want you to feel like you got your money's worth. So I mean that's my take. Like I feel like it is, but I don't know if it was ever been good.
Cool. And Rich, what about yourself? Do you think now's a great time to be an indie creator?
Yeah, I think it is. And I think it's part of it is that, like, you know, we're talking about the comics market like it's a big monolith, and it's really not anymore. There are many different comic markets. There's the direct market, there's the Kickstarter market, there's the web comics market. So I think the reason why it's better than ever to be an indie creator is that you have all these different places that you can get your work out if you want to. You know, you don't necessarily have to wait for permission to make your comic, or or get, all you really need is just to like have the resources and the drive to do it, which I think is a great place to be. As far as like versus Marvel and DC and the event books, I think there's room for everything. And I think like, those books sell the best. It's like it's not to say that people don't respect indie creators because they don't buy the books. It's just that it's like those books have very broad appeal, and they have like people that have been following them for decades. Whereas like, guys like me, Joe, Brian, Dave, and Dave Pepos, it's like, we're just sort of like coming up, and like we're still building our audiences. So it's not, it's you don't feel like disrespected if like more people aren't discovering your book, because there's like hundreds and hundreds of books out there. I think it's like it's hard. It's a tough time because there is a lot of stuff out there, but it's also a great time because there's just that freedom out there of like, being able to do a lot of different things.
I'm gonna, if I may, respectfully disagree a little bit with you on that one, Rich. As a fan and as a guy who buys comics, not just looking at them, I will tell you right now that I buy religiously every 2 weeks. I buy Batman and I buy Detective Comics. Those are my guys, right? I will also tell you that I have not actually read a Batman comic for the last 10 issues. I know what's going on in Detective, but Batman, I have no idea what's going on. And every day, every week, I trump down to the comic book shop and I buy this book. And it's because I love Batman. I get it. I love Batman. I get it. But there's something about event books and the lack of ramifications and the lack of anything really changing, that no matter how much you love Batman, sooner or later, it's going to just be back where it started. And with indie books, all bets are off, man. You spend time getting a good hook going and buying into the characters in a book. You don't know if they're going to be there by issue 2. You don't know if they're going to be there by issue 3. Sometimes you don't even know if they're going to be there by the second page of the third act of issue 1. So, I think I agree with you that the marketplace should have more choice. But for me, I'm finding myself, I'm buying more indie books now than I've ever bought Marvel books recently. Gotta say.
Oh, that's great, and I wish everybody felt the same way as you did. All I'm saying is just that it's like, when you look at, if you just look at like the numbers, it's like, if Batman, there's always going to be more people buying Batman than buying Happy Hill. And you can't begrudge Batman for that. Well, Joe disagrees with me, Joe, but
Joe hates Batman.
I love Batman. If Happy Hill sells more than Batman in January, I will go on a world tour. I will sing it from the Eiffel Tower. I will skydive from the Sphinx in Egypt. But no,
Whoa! That's 2 places. The world's bigger than 2 places, dude.
Let's see what the sales come in at, Johnny. All right, then we'll see the kind of budget we can do. And I'm also putting in jail time with each of these jumps because people don't like the skydiving. I might not even use a parachute because you know why? Useless people live forever, so I'm gonna be fine. But what I think you're saying is like malaise. I think you get malaise with a comic that's a long running series, and I think every one of us have been fans for a long time get guilty of it. I love Spider-Man. I'm in and out of Spider-Man. I haven't picked up X-Men in a little bit. Hey, John Hickman's X-Men is something I want to do. But just think about like the inverse of what you're saying. Like, let's just say all of a sudden, and I'm making this up, obviously this is not happening, wink, wink, but let's just say in 6 months, Rich and I were working together on a Ghost Rider series for Marvel. Now you followed us and you read our other books. Would you be now more so inclined to even get into a character that might not be your top 2?
Yeah.
So I think
I mean, there's a British guy, Alex Packnagel, who I think is really talented. He does a lot. He did Giga. Did you read Giga? Yeah. So he did that, but he is one of the
Very
first
talented,
people
right.
Marvel call when they're doing their event books and they need a one shot.
Yeah.
So he also did
Right.
one of the Death of Doctor Strange
He
Avengers
did the Death
issue.
of Doctor Strange, Avengers issue,
Yeah.
which is great.
He did something like
great issue.
I feel like I read something in space, like something with the Kree or
Last year,
He did Empire. Yes,
Empire.
Empires.
Yeah, he did it.
Empire. That was it. Yes, it was brilliant. It was great.
And honestly, as a writer, he's a great guy, great writer. Giga's fantastic. His other books have been brilliant. He's really got an out there mind. Yeah, but Marvel only call on him when they need like a one shot. And I think, come on, Marvel, put your money where your mouth is. You know, let's do. You want to do something different? Get Alex to do a regular book, and let's see what happens. You know, but
I think it's because we have the time as fans and quasi pros to be like, I would do this, I would do that. I agree.
Yeah.
I think like when I see same with Rich though. When I see Rich's output, I'm like, his books are nothing but amazing stories, amazing quality. And then you see how he's dabbled in Marvel, and I've been able to check that out ahead of time, and also how he's dabbled in DC with Superman. And both of those stories are standout stories to me in the books that they're in. So to me, when it comes to that, it's just a matter of time before I think the bigger two companies will sink their claws and give the person more room to run.
I think probably the biggest success out of that kind of indie crowd moving across would be someone like Ram V, who had these Savage Shores and then went on to Catwoman and Swamp Thing and Justice League Dark. Yeah, so that's probably the big thing. The only thing I would add,
I mean,
go on.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I think that's like it's a really common way. Like Ram, that's 100%. Donny Cates is another one who kind of went from God Country hit really big for him in Image, and then he was doing Thanos, and he was doing now he's like one of the most popular writers Marvel has. Like so many people that I really esteem, like writing big two books, guys like Ed Brisson, Matt Rosenberg. It's like got their start doing their own indie comics, and then presumably like somebody at Marvel or somebody at DC noticed and I was like, hey, why don't you try something with these characters? And then just over time built more and more. So I think it's a really Matt Rosenberg.
I felt sorry because I liked his Uncanny X-Men book. He was on a bit of a loser.
Loved it.
He was on
it was amazing.
He was on a hiding to nothing with that one. It was like, right, we need a lame Duck book to go for 12 months before we get the Hickman run. What should we do? Yeah. And there was some really good ideas in there. The Black King, for example. Cyclops was actually one eye. It's
Banshee. Banshee coming back as a zombie. It was awesome.
Man, there's some really good stuff in there, and it gets wiped. Don't get me started.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like Matt is like laid down and died. I mean, he's got the biggest, I would say one of, if not the biggest, like indie books out there. Was it What's the Furthest Place from Here? It's like it's an amazing book. It just came out. He's doing stuff on like in the Batman side of things. Like he did a Joker one shot. He's been doing a bunch of stuff. So I mean, I would love to have read a lot more of Matt's Uncanny X-Men too. But that's just things break a certain way, and that's how it goes. But Matt's doing really well. So like I'm like I love this stuff.
The only other thing
no matter where he's trying to get.
Definitely. But yeah, I think talent is like cream. It will always rise to the top. And Richard will catch, you'll know what that's like. What was I going to say? The other thing I'd say, Joe, about writing horror or drawing horror, for me in comic books, a lot of horror is the music. When you watch a movie, it's like that sinister like music and it stops. Sometimes that's the hard part to recreate, I think, in horror comics. But I think, hand on heart, Happy Hill absolutely nails it. I smiled at the fun bits. I was suspicious at the suspicious times because there are a fair few, and the art is gorgeous. So well done. I absolutely tip my hat to everyone involved. It's a great book.
I greatly appreciate that, dude. I appreciate you giving it a chance. And I'll tell you right now, as we're on the 4th issue right now, like because like you said, you're taking away sound, you're taking away the music leading you in somewhere, but the only thing we have is a page turn. I think that's really like the thing that like you could build up so much tension on a page and then flip to a page turn. And I think that's
why the colors work.
Further issues. Yeah, right. 100%.
Yeah, the colors work a lot.
Yeah.
Even lettering, you know, like how like where your eyes going and stuff. It can all like when it's all working well, it's all like really building a lot of tension. You know, like when Joe chooses like, you know, even before the drawing stage at the writing stage where we're like, you know, maybe, you know, here you're only going to see like a hand and then you know something's going to come out of, you know, it's like those are the kind of things you need to do to build tension, because you don't have the same tools that you would have if you were doing a movie or a show or something like that.
Cool. I love the juxtaposition. I really do. I love the juxtaposition between the kind of, we talked about earlier, the cartoony style, then the dark colors. And absolutely, the contrast is fantastic all the way through. It's a great book. From page 1 to the last page, I was flipping through it like nobody's business. Well, it's digital at the minute, so I was swiping right, if that's the good way to swipe. I don't know.
Yeah, listen, we're comics.
Swipe right.
So just swipe right. Go for it.
Yeah.
All right,
Have
guys.
a look up with Happy Hill. That's what we're going for. Yeah.
Oh my God! Watch out for the cameras. All right, okay. So, guys, thank you for joining me on today's show. Really do appreciate it. I know you two are really busy. Stay to after the credits. We'll just have a quick warm down. So, for everybody else, Happy Hill is out on the 26th of January, 2022 from Comics Tribe. Get down to your local comic book shop. Get it pre-ordered. If you're on Comixology, I'm sure the book will be there as well. Get it pre-ordered. You are going to be in for an absolute treat. All right. So, again, don't forget to check out UCPN for all your favorite shows, including Flipside Focus, where we focus dominantly on indie books and Kickstarters. All right. And, of course, you saw the ad earlier, the Old Timers Comic Book Show for something a little bit retro. All right. I've been your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes. Rich, Joe, thanks very much.
Thank you, Johnny. It's been a great for having us on. Thank you.
You're welcome. Very welcome. And we'll see you all next time.
Visit undercovercapes.com for the latest and greatest podcasts via the Undercover Capes Podcast Network. Also visit our parent company website, comiccrusaders.shop, all about comic pop culture.